In September 2014, Microsoft wrote a check for $2.5 billion, not for a massive studio, not for a franchise with decades behind it, for one man, and the game he built in his spare time. That man was 34-year-old Swedish programmer named Markus Persson. And that game? Well, you already know it. But what you don't know is how close none of it ever came to happening. How many times it almost didn't exist. And what it actually cost the man who made it. This is the true story of Minecraft. In 2009, Markus Persson was working a 9-to-5 at King.com. Yes, that King, the Candy Crush company. He was a game developer, just not the kind of game developer he wanted to be. He'd been coding since he was 8 years old, teaching himself on his father's Commodore computer in Stockholm. Games weren't a hobby for him, they were a language. And then he found Infiniminer, a tiny indie game where you could dig into the earth and build what you found. It was rough, it was simple, but it had something. Its source code leaked online, the community abandoned it, and the developer moved on. But Notch couldn't stop thinking about it. He kept asking himself one question: what if you took this idea and made it limitless? So after his shifts at King, he'd go home, open his laptop, and build, not for a publisher, not for a market, just for himself. He called it Cave Game, which admittedly was not going to sell merch. But the name didn't matter, because in May 2009, Notch posted a short video of his experiment on an indie developer forum called TIG Source. He wasn't pitching, he wasn't selling, he was just showing his work. The response changed everything. But here's what nobody tells you about this forum post. Notch almost didn't share it. He almost kept it to himself. Think about that for a second. The first playable version of Minecraft took Notch about 6 days to build. 6 days. There were no mobs, no crafting system, no inventory. Just a world made of textured cubes you could break and stack. That was it. He posted it on TIG Source, renamed it Minecraft, a combination of mine and craft, and put it online for free. Within hours, developers were asking how to play it. A few months later, he charged for it. €9.95 for an early alpha access. In the first 24 hours, he earned more than his entire monthly salary at King. He quit his day job 2 months later. He had no office, no investors, no marketing team. Just himself, a few friends he hired, and a game that was spreading entirely by word of mouth. And then YouTube discovered it. Early gaming creators started posting Minecraft videos in 2010. Building tutorials, survival series, ridiculous contraptions. The game was pure content. It generated its own stories, and those stories spread like wildfire. Notch had accidentally built something that nobody could quite explain. It wasn't about winning, it wasn't about a story. It was a blank canvas, and millions of people were picking up the brush. Mojang now had a real team, a real office, and a very real problem. The world was watching, and the game still wasn't finished. 4 million copies sold before the game was even finished. Let that land for a second. The game wasn't done, and it was already a cultural phenomenon. November 18, 2011, Minecraft officially launches at a gaming convention called Minecon. By that day, 4 million copies had already been sold in beta. The full release sold another million in the first 24 hours. The Xbox 360 port launched the following year and moved 400,000 copies on its first day alone. Minecraft wasn't just a game anymore, it was a platform, a creative tool, a second world. Players built functioning computers inside of it. Architects used it to draft buildings. Teachers brought it into classrooms across 115 countries. A Minecraft Education Edition was developed because the game taught kids logic, geometry, and collaboration in a way no textbook could. And the numbers were unlike anything the industry had ever seen. Not because of marketing, not because of a massive launch event, because of a community that had built the game's reputation with their own hands, block by block. Notch had gone from an anonymous forum post to being called the most influential game developer alive. There were articles, interviews, conference appearances, fan mail by the thousands. The game had swallowed his entire life, and somewhere in the middle of it, he started thinking about the door. The most powerful company in the world reached out, and you would think the answer was obvious. But Notch's response surprised everyone, including himself. In the summer of 2014, Microsoft reached out to Notch. The conversation was informal, almost casual, but the number on the table was anything but. Notch had already been public about his exhaustion. On his personal blog, he wrote that the pressure of being the creator of the most talked about game in the world was crushing him. He wasn't a CEO, he wasn't a public figure, he was a programmer who liked to build things. He said yes. On November 6, 2014, Microsoft officially acquired Mojang for $2.5 billion. At the time, it was the largest acquisition in gaming history. Notch's personal share came to roughly $1.67 billion. For a game that began as a side project built in 6 days in an apartment after work, that number is almost impossible to hold in your head. On the day the deal closed, Notch quietly walked out of Mojang's offices for the last time. No farewell party, no speech. He was done. And now, for the first time in 5 years, he was free. Notch bought a $70 million mansion in Beverly Hills, reportedly outbidding Beyonce and Jay-Z for the property. He bought cars, threw parties, and traveled. He had everything money could buy. Meanwhile, Jens Bergensten, known as Jeb, quietly took the wheel at Mojang and kept building. Under Minecraft's ownership, Minecraft grew into something Notch himself had probably never imagined. Over 300 million copies sold across every platform that exists, the best-selling video game in human history. Notch's relationship with his own creation became complicated. Microsoft eventually removed his name from Minecraft's credits. He largely stepped away from public life. The man who built the game is no longer part of the game. And the game is just fine. That's what makes this story different than every other billion-dollar origin story. It's not about ambition. It wasn't a calculated move. One programmer, 6 days, a forum post nobody expected to go anywhere, and a blank, blocky world that turned out to be the most powerful creative tool a generation has ever seen. That all started because one guy was bored after work.